got to do that. Michelle, great to see you again, and thanks for joining. Been looking forward to this conversation. So I'll start out with a quick introduction of myself. I'm Casey Saran. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Spaceback. So our company, I've been in the programmatic ad space for a long time, and just saw that the investment brands were making in social media was far and away beyond the investment that was happening in paid media in terms of content and storytelling. So our company is all about helping brands recreate social media messaging and inside standard ad units, which generates much higher user engagement and performance. So we think that's kind of the future of how this social first content is going to kind of grow beyond the walled gardens. I've been really excited to talk to you and learn more about your predictions for 2021. But let's start out with, if you won't mind, just giving a quick introduction of your background and your role.
Sure. First, I'm really excited to be here, obviously, at the Brand Innovation Summit, but I'm also excited to have this conversation with you. So thank you for hosting this conversation. My name is Michelle Horowitz, and I have been with Blink Fitness for almost a year and a half. And it's been a really interesting transition for me. Prior to that, I spent the last probably 15 years before that in the fashion and the retail space. So I think it's a really exciting space, obviously, to be in right now, the health and wellness and fitness, especially as we, move from being in this period of COVID and now going into recovery in 2021. So I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Great. Yeah, so before we kind of jump into predictions for the future, obviously 2020 has been a crazy year. For Spaceback, we saw a lot of more of attention after the Facebook boycott, and just saw brands kept their foot on the gas in terms of social media when they're kind of reassessing what to do with paid media. So it's been a crazy year but a good year for Spaceback. Curious, in the obviously fitness space is changing like crazy. So before we talk about the future, maybe you can talk about in 2020 some of the ways that your team has adapted to the changes, and maybe something you've been proud of with how the year has gone.
For sure. And I mean, I think you called it right. I think it's been an unprecedented time for everybody in all industries. But I think in particular for the health, wellness, and the fitness industry, it really has accelerated us into this new digital era, so to speak, where we're really marrying the in-gym experience with the digital experience. And so there was massive acceleration for the industry, and we definitely felt it at Blink Fitness. And if I were to look back at 2020, obviously it was a difficult year for many of us, both as individuals and working for a company. But I have to tell you that the one thing that I am so proud of is my team. Like the work that they have done in this time of uncertainty has been incredible. And the way that we were able to, in less than a week, shift our priorities and our focus. We spent, obviously the back half of 2019 preparing for 2020. January is obviously the most important month of the year for people that are in the fitness space. So our plans were obviously different once COVID hit, and the team just did they were so agile and super engaged. And I think that we, through this time, really built a team culture of freedom and trust and innovation. Like the amount of activity that we were able to do from an innovation point of view. We launched 4 products during this time period. So pretty unprecedented, and I couldn't have done it without this team. So.
That's amazing. And that's something that I think just a note of optimism. It has been a hard year, but it's really reinstated my faith in people's ability to work together and just find a way to, just the resilience of teams being able to just get stuff done.
Yeah.
I think we were really worried about losing camaraderie and, personal accountability. And we found that, COVID has in some ways brought in people closer together where, some people who are in different cities would do digital happy hours and stuff, and talk about work and stuff. But the point was more to connect. I'm curious if you can share an example of kind of something that your team did, and you mentioned launching new products. Maybe one of those product launches how did those go differently other than the people not being in the room together, what went different about the product launches than previously?
Yeah, just to fast follow on something that you touched on that I don't sort of want to let go by. And that was really about how the teams became closer and really supported each other. I think it really was through that time that they were spending together to be supportive that we were able to do what we did. And, we did have daily touch bases, really just check-ins, but we also did weekly touch-ins when we sort of talked about our personal highs and our work highs. And I think that sort of optimism and hope through the period really also helped accelerate us, or sort of allowed us to pivot so easily. But a lot of the work that we did around our app was really important. We did have an app that we had launched in the previous year in 2019, and we really built upon that. And specifically in the week between sort of the announcement of COVID and the gyms closing, we actually launched an online fitness program on Facebook Live. Every day, Monday to Friday, we had daily workouts with our PT, our personal trainers, and they were led by them. And so the amount of time and skill set that it takes to sort of get people comfortable in front of the camera and then launch it, we did that in less than a week. And our reach has been phenomenal. We've almost hit the 2 million mark as far as reach on Facebook Live, and we continue to add to that content category. We're not every day any longer. We're actually only twice a week, but it continues to be really an important vehicle for us to sort of engage with the community and hopefully engage with a larger community. This really was a way to sort of reach out to everybody. And there were interesting stats. I don't know if you saw, but like MindBody was talking about during this time period that there were 85% of people were actually streaming on live fitness classes versus 9% the year before. So again, like unprecedented numbers during this transition period. And we were right there with a product to really service our members.
Nice. I definitely want to come back to some of that stuff on
Sure.
social, and also with regards to predictions for the future. What's it going to look like after COVID? Are these new trends going to continue? Or are people eager to get back in a gym as soon as possible? But before I get on to that, just want to ask with regards to like leadership and the teams coming together. Like one thing I picked up on is kind of having weekly check-ins where people are sharing highs and lows, and highs and lows are a little more personal than just like, what did you do this week? It's more like, how do you feel about what you did this week? So that's a takeaway I had from that. But anything else from like a leadership perspective on how you have gotten your teams to work so well together despite the changes?
I think I spend a lot of time, communicating what the North Star is, but at the same time, I'm very quick to, with resource constraints during this time period and people working on multiple different programs, maybe not necessarily what they were working on prior to COVID, I really dug in and, helped not only like remove the obstacles or the issues that they had to move forward, but I was really there supporting them. So I did a lot of one-on-ones, not necessarily with my direct reports, but just people on the team, just check-ins, like human check-ins, and making sure that all was okay. Because I think, as we go through this period, people handle being alone in an apartment differently, or, with a very small group of people. And I think just these constant check-ins really prove to be a way to bring the team closer together, but also to just support everybody as a team. So, and we continue, I think it's become rote for us, or it's a ritual for us. And, as we get ready for the holiday, we figured out ways to celebrate each other too, even for birthdays. You have to get super creative when you're trying to celebrate a birthday. It's easy to sort of all gather in the kitchen and, have a glass of wine. It becomes much more complicated over Zoom. So we've spent a lot of time doing that together, but.
Yep. That's really cool. And I'll definitely take some of that back for my team too. Cause it's definitely an area we can improve. But that's helpful. So want to jump ahead to kind of predictions for 2020 and the point you were making around how behavior has changed so much. What are your predictions for 2021? Like obviously this COVID situation, there's a lot up in the air, in terms of vaccinations and timing and everything. But when things start to go back to normal, how do you think people, what are they looking for in a gym?
Yeah.
Is it the same as what they're looking for before?
Yeah, I think that's really an interesting question. I mean, across the board, industries have been hit by this digital accelerant and how it's going to impact them. We didn't really go deep into this, but a lot of the products that we created during this time period were in and around the app. And so we made it an easier experience sort of to bring the digital world into the real world. So, it was a lot had to do around our health and wellness and taking extra care as we went from being closed to reopening again. We wanted people to feel super comfortable in the gyms. Aside from following CDC and local guidelines, we also wanted people to, have a sense of ease after this sort of intense period of worry about contracting or different ways of interacting with people. So we actually use the app as a way now to enter the gym. So it's a frictionless or seamless experience. You're actually not touching or interacting with anything. In addition to that, the other product that we launched was the ability to reserve your time at the gym, which, with capacity rules that were outlined by states and CDC, there's only a limited amount of people that can be in the gym at one time. So we wanted people, when they spent the time at the gym, to feel comfortable, to release stress rather than not have stress. So we allow our busiest gym to actually reserve space. And then the other thing is, like, I want to know how busy my gym is. I don't feel comfortable around a lot of people. So we actually now have a capacity tracker that prior to going to the gym, even if you're not reserving, you can actually see how busy that gym is. So I think now stepping into your question, and we can talk more about this too. I see a lot of similarities to what happened in the retail and e-commerce space, right? Like the two are never separated anymore. It's almost like we're moving into this time of omni-channel, and we're hoping that, prior to COVID, people came into the gym and used their app because there's 3 components to the app. And one of those is actually all different products and services around exercising. We have a ton of content, both that we've created and we've partnered with other partners like Sworkit that people can be in our gym and working out. And then it obviously served people very well during this time period when if they don't want to be in the gym, they don't have to be in the gym. So I imagine that this seamless relationship between the online world, if you will, and the offline world, I think it's really going to continue. And the spirit and really the birth of Blink Fitness is around for people that, anybody that, wants, that may be very new in this wellness journey and not know a lot about the gym, having this app as your partner to either navigate your world outside and inside is a really strong component. So yeah. I see that continuing in the future, that people will, I didn't get to meditate today while I was in the gym. I'm going to meditate in my apartment, or, I need a really great recipe for dinner tonight. We have a lot of nutrition content on our app as well, so that people definitely tap into.
Nice. And it sounds like, it's transforming into kind of a lifestyle experience with meditation and diet and all these things that you might not get from just a gym visit in the old world. So even with these changes, it sounds like people can actually get more out of your products instead of less, which is, some companies are kind of paring down their offering to
Yes. And we've also, Yeah. And we really realized too that a lot, that people, it can be daunting to come into a gym. Like, where do I begin? Women sometimes feel uncomfortable in the weight room. And, part of that navigation is through what we call the mood lifters, the people that work in our gym, but we also have our personal trainers. But now we've taken the personal trainer experience and actually brought it outside of the gym. So if you're not comfortable yet to come back into the gym, or your schedule doesn't allow you to necessarily be there during gym hours, we have a whole virtual PT program that, again, people can access through the app or online to participate. So we're really thinking about sort of a full day, so to speak, and this idea that we're like wherever and whenever to help you on your journey.
Yep. Cool. So that's really, I think, a big change, from what I've heard from not only, what you aspire to be, but also how you talk about it and how you ultimately sell it to a consumer. So how do you with these changes in identity, if you will, how is that impacting your marketing messaging and the channels that you're on and how you're engaging users in those environments?
Yeah, I mean, I think, our community is a huge part of the stories we tell and what we do. And, you had sort of talked about it a little bit or touched on it that we were going to talk about it, but social content has been a huge component of what we're doing. And, part of that pivot that took place in March was really building the content strategy is basically the cornerstone of both our marketing and advertising strategy. And we're relying now more than ever, I would say, like our content creation has grown 100%, which is, again, sort of hats off to my team that's been able to create content in these periods of isolation. But this idea that, we're relying on our community to help us tell our story. We really are very focused on, the local influencers to help us build that community. And we've created a strategy where we base that on the idea of inclusivity. So body inclusivity is a lot of the stories that our influencers tell, positivity, and really community engagement. And we've created this community of influencers that help sort of spread the story and not only tell it in our organic channels, but actually we're doing a lot of paid advertising with this messaging as well, which is, I think, is really exciting. It's interesting to, I feel very fortunate. I had been in the fashion world for a long time, and there, while we did engage with UGC at that time, the engagement in the fitness industry gives a lot of freedom to be able to do that. And I think the authenticity really shines when you do this. And I mean, I can tell you one particular story of one of our influencers. We call her Nurse Amy, and she's an incredible human being. She's a mother. She's a registered nurse, and unfortunately, she's based in New York, and she was one of the people that got COVID while she was doing her work. And it's amazing because Time Magazine recognized her as one of the 100 most influential people, and they're happy to be building a documentary with her right now. She was on the cover of Time Magazine, and she's a blinker. Like, she's in our community, and she actually, we've done some work with her posts, etc. And she actually credits Blink for getting her through this time period. Wow. For some of the recovery that she's had, she came back to work quite quickly after COVID, I think within 2 weeks, and she's really garnered her strength through this. So I think it's really, we have many more stories like that of just, people doing their thing in our gym. So that part makes us really proud. And yeah, obviously we want to share those stories because I think they're really important stories. They're really true and authentic to who we are.
Yep. Yeah. And definitely see social and influencer marketing as, a way of delivering authentic messaging, even social in the first place. I think when brands first got on Instagram, it was a way to be more like a person. And then as I think that started to, influencers evolution of the authenticity. One prediction I have for the future, and you touched on this.
Predict. I love a good prediction.
I think that influencer marketing is too big to live on Instagram and Facebook. And you talk about the storytelling that you're creating. Like, these are inspirational stories that, it's bigger than an influencer posting something on their wall.
100%. And it's so interesting because our KPI numbers are incredible, actually. Like, the engagement, I think we're at like 3.7%. And I think that Hootsuite is calling like our industry standards around 2.5 for engagement, which is pretty amazing. And our reach through our influencers is like way over 200,000. So that's really great too. But, I'm a big believer that marketing channels don't work on their own. It's when they work together that you have this force multiplying effect or flywheel effect that's unbelievable. So I feel fortunate in the time that I've been at Blink that, we've really optimized our channels. We've taken our email to the next level through, from shifting from batch and blast to personalization. And again, what we've done through social channels, but they don't live on their own. And we also launched a blog this year, et cetera, et cetera. I really want the team to think of how do these channels work together. So, oftentimes we take these incredible influencer stories, whether it's Amy or somebody else. And we want to tell that story on our blog, and we also want to post on our social channels, and we also want to have that advocacy in our ads. So, I think, and live on our website too. And I believe right now we're building a collection of, the stories and some of those things on our app. So, I agree with you. I think this is only the beginning. I think Reddit just announced an acquisition of a TikTok like service, and it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But and my team now is just fresh into TikTok, and I'm just like, go, let's figure this out. This is a great place. And truly authentic to our brand. When you think about music, health, wellness space, I think it's a really exciting opportunity.
Yep, totally. And I see so many, I participate in a lot of these kind of sessions and talks, and everyone brings up TikToks, like, don't make ads, make TikToks.
Yeah.
And, I appreciate TikTok saying it. It feels like marketers have been moving in that direction on other platforms anyway. And TikTok just came out and said, like, we're creating content, we're not creating ads. And, you said kind of social first drives a lot of those other channels, which kind of challenges this idea when I was first kind of getting educated on how marketing works and all the different agencies involved. It's like very much different channels or different silos. And it sounds like the way you're approaching this is there's kind of this umbrella above all silos that's the storytelling and the content messaging. How do you kind of think about the kind of age old, like, you create the right content for the right channel versus this idea of, like, the story is bigger than the channel and you can tell the same stories on, like, do you adapt the way, the approach, or how you're telling the story for different channels, or how do you marry?
Yes, I think, like that classic, I don't know where it comes from, but right channel, right message, right time. I mean, that is a truth, and I think a foundation to build things on, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every piece of content that we create is actually the right content for all of those channels. So I think there's a lot of, again, like what you touched upon, there's an umbrella idea that comes out of the team that, everybody sort of participates in this brainstorming idea and then figures out where does it live. And sometimes, we create something for Instagram, and then it's like a couple of weeks later, we're like, oh my gosh, if we turned it this way and added this and brought in this element, then couldn't it live on TikTok too? Like, we're constantly ideating. Again, I think we bring a lot of that mentality that I'm sure you're familiar as an ex-Googler, but like this idea of, like, we're always iterating, we're always like reading and testing, reading, reacting to, like, I don't want, gone are those days of the big reveal, like, we're setting this in stone, this is the way it's going to look. Like, I love when my team you can feel the energy kind of almost every single day about, like, oh, shouldn't we add this to the newsletter? Or, Bess, who runs my CRM, does a magnificent job of sort of pulling, we've created more than 11 journeys for our leads, and she's constantly pulling in this content, whether it's social or otherwise, to just make those emails more relevant, more personalized. And so I think that thinking just, I don't think we'd be where we are. And obviously with limited resources, both from a human, people side and dollar side, you're constantly trying to think of ways of becoming more efficient and effective in every single channel. So it's amazing to watch it happen in real time, so to speak. But
Yep. And so as you're talking, I'm just like, yes. Like, I agree so much with everything you're saying, but the thing that, kind of putting my, data hat back on kind of takes wind out of my sails as I'm like feeling so enthusiastic, is like, okay, how do we measure all of this stuff? Like, how do we know what's working when we have all of these different channels? And obviously, like, the more yeses, and the more places you are, and the more you're trying stuff, the harder it can be to, like, measure and actually know what's working and driving business impact. So how do you marry the kind of, try and, iterate with the actually, like, trying to be, have a good understanding of what's driving business results?
Yeah. At the end of the day, obviously it is, joins and trials that drive this business. So, we try to ladder up the KPIs. And I think we're just, I don't think, listen, I don't have a silver bullet, and I welcome anybody, if you have an idea or anybody in the audience, I am open to it. And I think, I have an incredible performance marketing team that's constantly thinking about, what tools can we use to look at that multivariate, like all the touch points. Some of it is gut. I think some of it is like listening to intuition, and you just know you've got it in your hand. And again, hats off to my team for identifying those opportunities and force multiplying them. But I don't think we've figured out the magic bullet. We do look at each channel separately and are constantly looking at those KPIs and trying to optimize against them. But obviously the ones that are easier to quantify are the joins and the trials. But we feel like we've got one foot forward. We're a lot further along than we were probably 15 months ago as far as doing all of that measurement. But, I think it's a journey. I don't think we're ever going to get there because, like you said, before you know it, there's another social channel that's come on the scene, or a different way of looking at it, or, SEO and all of that. So
yeah,
I wish I had the minute somebody
maturity.
has an answer, I swear I'm all ears. Like, email me and tell me, because I'd love to be able to figure it out.
Yeah, no, and I think, I don't think that there is an answer really. I think there's there's strong opinions out there, and I definitely have talked to people who think this is the right way of measuring, but then you talk to someone else who makes a very valid argument for. I think you said it best. I don't know exactly what your wordage were, but the business is built on a series of trials. It's never like we figured it out, so just do this over and over again, because what worked last year, we've definitely learned in 2020, isn't always what's going to work next year. So measurement is, an evolution, just as the content approach and marketing approach and all these different channels.
For sure.
All right. So I just got a 5-minute warning. So I'm going to
ding dong.
Yeah. So we got a couple questions coming in, and feel free to, anyone in the audience, send over some more questions. A question here is, with so many different locations in different states with various reopening strategies, how does, are you developing multiple reopening strategies, and how do you kind of message with, nationally with all locations being kind of different?
Yeah, we have to look at each. It's usually state, but it depends on the location. But the overarching is following CDC guidelines and then layering on top local guidelines. But we actually literally have playbooks we did have playbooks. We continue to have those playbooks because we're still in flux about what potentially could happen. But we do have separate strategies. We have a framework that we work from a marketing, storytelling, the triggers, all of the different ways that we speak to our customers, like reigniting, like updating the local page that has all of the gym opening times, all of that. It's in its playbook, but each one follows the guidelines within each of those communities. So again, I really have to say that when the team is so tightly integrated and they're working so closely together, they're just hitting all of those different levers. So it's almost like two books working together to create the geography.
Yeah, nice. And another question, any campaigns that have surprised you in terms of performance and effectiveness, or something from maybe this past year?
I think a lot of it's interesting. A lot of the snackable content. So we've created this Get Up and Blink on Facebook Live, but it was interesting that we've taken that sort of mindset of maybe people aren't or choose not to be on Facebook Live and they're on Instagram. So we've actually created these mini workouts, using emojis and icons, and people really engage with it, and it's interesting, and people actually use it. So how does that translate to the different
Wait, sorry, Michelle, I don't understand. What do you mean by emojis?
Well, we just, for instance, a particular workout, could be a leg workout or whatever. And then we put an Instagram post together, literally just an image, and we literally create a workout for them. We just happen to use like emojis or whatever, but it's literally like, 10 leg lifts, for etc. Like, and we do it for different occasions, but people engage with it, which is really interesting, and people want more of it and actually send lists of, can you do one for specifically for stomach, or, whatever it might be, which is interesting that people don't want to watch a video. They're just happy to have this, creative, workout that's like literally just a line items that we post on Instagram. So does that make sense?
That's fascinating. Yeah,
it is fascinating because it speaks to really this whole idea that everybody's on their own journey and want their own, they want what they want and they want it when they want it. So this idea that we can marry the gym with an app is pretty incredible.
Yep. And another thing that's inspirational to me about that is, you don't need to have models and, a camera crew and in a room to, take, and then edited for, weeks before you can release a short piece of content. This sounds like something that someone on the social team can create in, a couple hours in post. And
for sure. And a lot of our influencers do that for us, but we also have a philosophy. It's members, not models. So, which is also fantastic. So any, the campaigns that we do and the work that we do is with the real members. So that's kind of amazing, or influencers.
Yep.
Oh, there he is. He's calling it a day. Done.
I feel like we could have let this go on. This was fantastic. Seriously, we definitely have to continue part 2 and dive deeper into some of these pieces, like the influencer and social, the UGC.
Yeah.
There's so much. Each one is such a rich topic.
Yeah. And I'd love to talk more too about mental wellness, because the philosophy for Blink is, mood over muscle. This is really about the mental, how it makes you feel versus what it might do to you physically. The physical benefits are great, but the mental benefits are even more important. And, as we're in this time period, I can't, the way that, our members feel, the way the community feels, there's tremendous stress, worry, anxiety, financial pressure, and so it's a whole separate topic. So.
Absolutely. And even they go hand in hand too. If you have a stressful day, a good workout, at least for me, helps, relieve some of that. Right.
Yes.
So, and, again, I hate to use the cliche, now more than ever, but yeah, we are all feeling, the impact, and we're hunkering down for the winter. So the physical well-being, the mental health and well-being, it's important than ever, especially if you're able to provide some of these resources and opportunities for people in communities that don't have access to, some of the resources that other people have. So again, you're phenomenal work, really insightful. Casey, thank you so much for joining us. We definitely have events coming up on health and wellness, and we will be in touch, and we'll
awesome.